Thank you for staying with us. Presently, we'll be joined by Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He is a political scientist and director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. But we'll make tracks even as we await his company. Let me just also let you know that this segment, the news review, is brought to you kind courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. What are they offering you? Free prostate screening if you're a man, and free female fertility screening if you're a woman. It's absolutely gratis. And where can you locate them? Here in Accra, Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronum Abuehia, behind the Angel Educational Complex. There is also Community 22 in Tema. There's Takrade Anaji Estate, Techiman Hansua, and Esiama in Zima. If you'd like to call them, make a booking. This is how you can do it. Call these numbers: 0244 867 068, 0244 867 068. Alternatively, you can call 0274 234 321. 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But having got that out of the way, let's get into the papers this morning and find out what they have to say. But before we do, one of the topical issues we're contemplating this morning has to do with World Water Day. There are many countries that have had issues with water on the back of climate change. Here in Ghana, our situation is even more precarious. Here's why. We are dealing with something called galamsey, illegal small-scale mining. It has muddied our waters. Last week, when I shared with you my blunt thoughts, I spoke about how it has come to the fore, so much so that now our neighboring countries, like the Ivory Coast recently, were having some engagements with the Ivorians, have had cause to point blaming fingers, accusing fingers at us. Because as we pollute our waters, it's like the Nile flowing through South Sudan to, I think, even as far as Ethiopia and to many other countries, and in Egypt as well. No one country can lay claim to it. And in the same vein, when we pollute the Ankobra, the Bia, and other rivers, we also impact other countries that share our borders, whose rivers may take or be sourced from our water bodies. That is how crucial it is. Today in Ghana, there are a lot of places where people do not have potable drinking water, contrary to the SDGs and their requirements for us. Go especially to the northern belt of the country, and you would see in OT region as well. Well, it does fall right beneath the northern belt of the country. A lot of people having to drink water that in some cases we wouldn't even want to give to animals, to our pets. So on a day like this, we really ought to look at the galamsey problem, what injustices it is doing to ordinary people, even the yet unborn, those who will come and face consequences on the back of failed leadership to deal with that issue. That out of the way, we also have to look at how we use, or better still, misuse water. In some cases, we do not make the most of our water bodies, the water resources. When we open the tap, we just think, okay, I'm paying for it anyway. But your misuse of water could mean someone else somewhere in a dire situation does not have access to potable drinking water, which is a human right, by the way. We have rights to these things. These are the very basics. When you go to Abraham Maslow's theory of needs, right at the very basic level, the most important, the most crucial that everybody looks for. Sustenance, food, drink, even before we think of shelter. So on World Water Day, I want all of us to contemplate some of these matters. If we've been misusing water, let's take a careful look at it and how we can manage it better. Institutions, I feel there should also be better drives. Yesterday, in recent times, we've heard Mr. President talk about the relevance of the NCC and all of that. I agree with him. The NCC still is relevant, but they are not serving the same purpose that growing up I saw them play with all those ads, with that vocalization of the core issues in society, from HIV to water to voting to everything else. My own friend is there, Madam Kathleen Addy. I'm charging you to do more, especially starting from World Water Day, to advocate for those things that will make our society better. Let's all come together and ensure that someday we'll not be importing water. The Ghana Water Company Limited has said that if we're not careful, looking at our turbidity levels, looking at all the other challenges that we face on the back of Galamsey, someday we could be importing water. And as I see Ampuna, sachet water, ASA, 50 pesos and the rest. Then imagine importing water and what that would imply for all of us. I wish you a happy World Water Day. Let's all contribute to making our country water sufficient. God bless Ghana. On that note, let's get into the newspapers now. And Daily Graphic, protecting the investor, SEC, that is the Securities and Exchange Commission, to set up fund. And pictured in there, my very own brother and also co-host of the Super Morning Show, Winston Amwa. A very good morning to you, my brother. He, of course, hosted that event. 5 Western Togoland secessionists jailed 5 years. Don't be cowed into submission on your decisions, President urges EC. And return Pokwasi land to Nidodu Clote family. Court orders ACP estate. Let's get into that first story from the graphic business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting, because yesterday they were focusing on the DDEP. Now, the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, is to establish a special fund solely meant to protect investors against market failures. It is to be known as the Investor Protection Fund, and a concept paper to help develop the fund into a vibrant scheme to provide protection for investors in the capital market has already been designed. The Director General of the SEC, Reverend Daniel Ogbamitete, who dropped the hint at the graphic business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting in Accra yesterday, said the fund, when established, would also provide minimum protection for investors in the event of a default by a company. This comes at a time when investor confidence is fast waning as a result of the implementation of the domestic debt exchange program meant to restore macroeconomic stability, reduce the government's interest payment on loans, and ensure more fiscal space. Reverend Ogbamitete said one of the key lessons learned from the DDEP was the fact that the macroeconomic environment could have an impact on investment. On the role of investments in the national developmental agenda and their benefit to investors, he said investors needed to take financial literacy lessons seriously to be able to make informed decisions on how to invest in low and high risk instruments. Now, I listened to a lot of the speakers yesterday, including Dr. Anane Entry, I believe that's his name, the one who's been representing the individual bondholders, and the many claims that were made and the many thoughts that, were brought to bear, the many suggestions that were proffered, and why we seem to be coming full circle, always back to this point of people running into losses. You'll recall that up to the 80s, thereabouts, there was a lot of financial illiteracy, so to speak, and a lot of doubt from many people who would rather hide their money under their beds rather than take them to banks. It's taking us about 3 to 4 decades to disabuse the minds of people, to get people investing. And now this bubble hits us. What it means is people are much more skeptical. Interest rates are high. The monetary policy rate has shot up. People, those who were already on facilities, loans, are paying through their noses. I know this for a fact. Now, there's also the issue of the currency fluctuation. Then we can talk about all the surrounding circumstances, the DDEP and everything that it has meant, haircut or no haircut, Sakura or punk. What it means is it creates a situation where a lot of people are skeptical about the system and don't even know whether to invest their resources, whether they'll get returns as expected. And so that is the story there. Ghana is not, in recent times you may have heard of Republic Bank in the United States, SVB and all of that, but you would realize that there are systems, there are modes of containment of that system, especially on the back of the global economic crunch of 2008. You would realize that in those systems or in those jurisdictions, there are many more systems to deal with these situations. Here, it's not so clear cut. And in this instance, we're knocking on the door of the IMF, and we've had to execute a DDEP, which has left a lot of people wallowing in sorrow. So how do we avert same moving forward? Hopefully these discussions will help our financial watchers and our economists to do better in guarding or safeguarding the money of the ordinary Ghanaian. Well, from there, let's also get into some other stories. Page 16, let me start from there. But maybe page 17, first of all. There's NPP mourns Dr. Akutose, directs party flags to fly at half-mast. Yesterday, I expressed our condolences, and we continue with that today. A stalwart of the NPP, he was a former Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, and he served in various other roles with the NPP. Unfortunately, he has met his maker. We also go someday, but sometimes when others take the lead, it is heart-wrenching, and we commiserate, not just with the NPP, because he served the country. We commiserate with all Ghanaians for this loss. Mahama files to contest NDC flag bearership. That story on page 17 as well. But on page 16, don't be cowed into submission on your decisions. President urges EC. And President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has urged the Electoral Commission not to be scared and cowed into submission when its decisions come under scrutiny. On the contrary, he said it should let the analysis of its decisions and the expectations of Ghanaians spur it on to greater heights, and above all, work so that the will of the people would be upheld. Referring to Article 46 of the Constitution, he said in the performance of its functions, quote, the EC would not be subject to the direction or control of any person or authority. It answers only to the Ghanaian people, the Constitution of the Republic, and its own conscience. I heard him speak about the fact that it should be about who votes and what they voted for, not who counts the votes and all of that. Well, I agree with you to some extent, Mr. President, but looking at especially what has happened in Nigeria and the claims of a stolen mandate and the court's ruling, at least what we've seen as of this point, the initial bits in there, knowing all the hurdles that we face in our part of the world, I think this is a very slippery slope, and we ought to watch how we deal with the Electoral Commission. I'll tell you, Mr. President, I feel that we have over-politicized, all the parties, especially in this Fourth Republic, have over-politicized the Electoral Commission. Haven't you noticed how when the NDC is in power and they have appointed a certain Electoral Commission's chairperson, they're always in support? And vice versa, when the NPP is in power, similar situations. Dr. Afarijan stepped aside, Charlotte Osei came. We saw what happened, and I still insist that what was done was not right. The sort of scheming, just akin to what we did with the Auditor General, Daniel Yao Domelevo. It was scheming, yes, and it was done to what end? It creates more distrust. It sows the seed of distrust in the system. And interestingly, now there's talk about the fact that the current Electoral Commission chair has also engaged in the same procurement issues. The other party has said, even here on my show, the NDC, that should they come to power, they would also use that against her. What kind of system are we fostering then? And then again, Mr. President, I would ask you, I thought maybe you would move away from the politics on this. I do consent that you cannot, as it is said, and as a student of politics, they will tell you we're all political animals. And I agree. You don't necessarily need someone to be apolitical to be able to host a show like this, to be blunt and to tell the truth, whether it is black or white. As a media person, as a person in government, even as one of the officers, the top officers of the Electoral Commission. But when there appears to be a trend where people suspected or known to have contested in a certain party keep getting appointed to the Electoral Commission, I think that is a recipe for disaster. We know some of them, the three who have been brought to bear in recent times at the Electoral Commission. I don't need to say it. We all know what some of their backgrounds are. Lecturers, among others. We ought to be careful and use people who have not just the know-how. Sometimes you can have someone with the know-how, but the exigencies, the surrounding issues will create problems, which is why I totally agree with Dr. Daniel Yao Domelevo. When his son wanted to work with the Auditor General's department, qualified, yes, but he felt there was a conflict of interest and he made him step aside. Some people felt that was not right. I would do say, because there's a conflict of interest. And unless maybe his father were not the boss, then maybe the situation could have been different. It's the same situation here. So let's watch it with these political appointees. I said it. most Ghanaians would run away from it. I have said it, and it is the truth. Why can't we bring to bear? I mean, it was beautiful when you brought in Martin Amido as special prosecutor. Beautiful. Let's not lose track, Mr. President. Counsel from a young man to you. You may know better, but sometimes wisdom doesn't always reside in the grayest of hairs. And that is the story there. Let's get into some other stories right before we move on. 5 Western Togoland secessionists jailed 5 years, and that is on page 26 of the newspaper. Let me quickly get into this. So 5 members of the Western Togoland Restoration Front, a group seeking to use force to secede from the Volta and the Oti regions from Ghana, have been jailed 5 years each by the Accra High Court. Ebenezer Blokbo, Afetogbo Kpogo, Joseph Nyamewu, Wisdom Kuvo, and Israel Besakbeho will serve their sentences in hard labor. The court, presided over by Justice Mary Mami Ekwe Yanzu, found the 5 guilty of being members of, participating in the campaign of, attending meetings of, and contributing to the funds of a prohibited organization. The court established that on September 25, 2020, the 5 were part of the WTRF group whose members blocked the road from Aveime in the Volta region to Accra, attacked the Aveime and the Mepe police stations, which they used to overpower the policemen, freed the inmates of police cells, and stole arms and ammunition from the armory of the police stations. And for that, they get 5 years each with hard labor. And that is the situation as far as they are concerned. I've always said that we can push for better, but we must use legitimate legal means of doing so within the confines of the law. CSSPS to monitor progress of student placement. So yesterday I got a bit excited when I heard of that incident, but when I saw the minister on the floor there, communicating with people, I began to wonder, was it all for show or was it more of a reality? Let's better the systems. Let's avoid some of the problems with the systems. It doesn't take, it's not a bad thing for the minister, Dr. Yawase Duchum, to go and sit there and do that. But on a regular basis, he's not the one who is going to be at post doing those things. The way he was sounding all fine and, oh, please, and that's not that. When you're dealing with tens of thousands of people hitting you at the call center, you don't have the luxury of being so fine. You have to be nice to people, but there's a lot of pressure on them. There's a lot of work at stake. That said, it was a good exercise, but let's not make it just cosmetic. Let it not just be for show. Let us ensure that the CSSPS system is tweaked properly to serve the ordinary Ghanaian, to put students out of their misery. Recently, we saw about 200,000 of them going through the placement system, not getting placed and having to throng different district educational centers, including the Nat Hall here in the Greater Accra region. How do we forestall that? That should be our focus. That should be number one, rather than maybe trying to show that we're doing this or that. But I salute the education minister all the same on that development. APSU 98 hands over $250,000 teachers flat to Alma Mater. And we brought you the story in the news this morning. APSU 98 handing over that $250,000 teachers flat to their Alma Mater. And maybe it's high time other schools, took off from such examples. I think the MOBA did it at a point. Presec has been doing it for a while. My own alma mater, Bishop Herman, there are some structures that are in dire need, yes, dire need of revamping, rehabilitation. And sometimes I am on the pages as an old student myself. Not much gets to be done. So let's all put our shoulders to the wheel in our different schools, because this is how, I'm not just speaking about my alma mater, Bishop Herman, but I'm also speaking to other institutions. That is how some of these schools will not just survive, but thrive moving into the future and continue to provide education, quality education for those yet to come, maybe even those yet unborn. The Daily Guide newspaper this morning, 5 Papavi fighters jailed 25 years. That's how it is couched. Papavi, of course, we know Papavi passed and he is not in the fray. Nana swears in 3 EC members. Ayo. NPP mourns Akoto says Speaker pays tribute, and I heard the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford, Bagbin yesterday paying glowing tribute to a fine gentleman. You know, Dr. Akoto says passing also reminds me of another stalwart, someone I deeply respected and loved, and whose loss I felt was terrible for us. His name, he's a former Minister of Finance and I think Defense as well. How come just when I thought of him, his name escaped me? I'll try and get the name. It's a B name. There's a B name in there. I'll try and recall. But I'm sure some of you already know the person of whom I speak. Fine gentleman. And we lost him as well many years ago. Well, Victor Brobe is new NCCE deputy chair. Post that appointment. And NDC agents to drink attire for 2024 alert. That is according to Mahama. And they have said that they are going to be very alert and not allow anything to be swept under the carpet or to pass under their eyes, so to speak, in the 2024 election. So let me just get to that story. Former President John Dramani Mahama has filed his nomination to contest in the flag bearership race of the National Democratic Congress, slated for May 13, 2023. The campaign team, led by Professor Joshua Alabi, submitted the nomination forms, other required documents, and fees at the party's headquarters in Accra yesterday on behalf of the two-time defeated presidential candidate of the NDC. It's interesting how the Daily Guide couches it. Speaking after the filing of the nomination, Professor Alabi assured supporters and members of the NDC that they were working on ensuring a smooth collation of electoral results. The former Vice-Chancellor of the University of Professional Studies, Accra, expressed optimism the NDC will experience a one-touch electoral victory in 2024. And I think the name comes to mind. I think it is Kwadwo Ba Redu. Yes, I believe that is the person of whom I speak. I'll just have to check on Google to confirm that is in fact the name, Kwadwo Ba Redu. And sometimes we lose the very best, the finest that we have. A lot of these ones tend to be arrogant, tend to self-aggrandize, tend to be square pegs and round holes. So when you get those types that actually fit the bill and are very humble and do the right things, we ought to celebrate them. May his soul as well rest in peace. The composers to perform in Ghana, and then there is Funke Akindele deletes politics-related posts on Instagram. She's been trending for that. Sarkodie on Ludacris' new project, and latest videos show rapper Sarkodie in the studio working with American rapper and actor Ludacris. Early Tuesday reports indicated Ludacris was currently in Ghana to work with several African artists on his new Afrobeats projects. Whatever our Ghanaian artists saw, we're happy for them. But I do agree with Akon, the Senegalese superstar, Senegalese American, if you like. I feel Sarkodie could have done better moving out of his comfort zone and rapping better or more. Let me just put it that way. I know that Sark Nation people always get offended when I compare Manifest to Sarkodie or say that he should have done more in the English language. His flow is apt. It is rapid. He naturally speaks quickly, but I just wish he could have done that. I feel it could have parachuted him or propelled him even beyond what he's done now. But, well, I guess we're all comfortable in our own zones, and you cannot blame anybody, especially as he is one of the most decorated African rap artists. The Finder newspaper will be wrapping in a bit. The Finder newspaper now. Nanado to launch 2023 Green Ghana Day in April. And even as we talk about that Green Ghana Day, I would like to really find out, my dear people of Ghana, when it comes to this exercise of greening Ghana, I have seen time and again, commentary about it, and we have done this and we have done that, but I'm still not seeing some very pertinent details that I would want to see. Now, what are some of those details? I'll tell you shortly. The first has to do with costs. a breakdown. How many millions have been pumped into these Green Ghana Day enterprises? How much exactly? We need to know as the good people of Ghana. It is our taxpayers' money going into this. How much? I know if we went into who is providing what seedlings and at what cost and where is this person from, we may get into the politics. I don't want us to get there. But how much? What is the full breakdown? How much have we expended over time? How many of these trees with a head count or a tree count have survived? I'm posing this question because one of the groups, Awula Sewa, who is a friend of mine, an older friend of mine, who is with one of these environmental groups, has spoken about how, for example, we left some of those trees for goats, mponche, to go and nibble on them, destroy them. So we expend taxpayers' money to plant these trees, and we expose them. We leave them exposed. Animals will take advantage, right? That is why farmers have, scarecrows, caricatures there to scare animals away. The animals are not scared because they are high-tech animals now. But we need a breakdown. The last time I think I heard Mr. President say something about 80% plus of these had survived. Based on what statistic? Which agency did the counting? How much have we spent? We need to recognize that accountability in all of these angles is paramount so that people would be willing to do more. It's like saying you're bringing road tolls back and people keep telling you, what have we achieved through the road tolls in the first place? What were we doing with those sums of money? So if you want to increase them on my stretch, what is that going to do for me? And it's justified. Because in politics, they will tell you that people vote for certain political parties. They give you their thumb so that you can deliver the bacon, so to speak, to them. And if you fail to deliver the bacon, you have no business asking for more. You have no business acting like Oliver Twist. So that is just my concern there. John Mahama, Ernest Kobia file nominations. NIA to complete printing of 541,529 backlog of Ghana cards on March 29. I'll get into that story. There's also the bit about 50 dying from 6,796 fires. Property worth 64.91 million destroyed in 2022, and that's according to the fire service. That's the Finder newspaper. So I'll get into those two stories on pages 2 and 5. So starting with page 2, 50 die from 6,796 fires. Data compiled by the Statistical Department of the Ghana National Fire Service reveals that a total of 50 people died from 6,796 fire outbreaks recorded in the year 2022. The fires also injured 241 people. Similarly, the total cost of damage caused by these fires amounted to 64.91 million Ghana cedis. Domestic fires were 2,602, bushfires 1,050. And sometimes, even when you use the Tema motorway stretch, you would see at dawn and at other instances, fires that are not attended to. I shudder. Sometimes, just as we're marking World Water Day, and how all of us, not just those in administration, not just Cecilia Abnadapa, who is Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources, not just the President and all of that, all of us ought to be involved. Sometimes where we set fires and just leave them, scare you, because anything could happen, the wind could blow, and sometimes they are very close to electric pylons and all of that. And we just leave them. We ought to be more aware. The country belongs to all of us, and we have to protect it. Commercial fires were 986, electrical fires 924, vehicular fires 658, and other fires 269. And when you look at the regional breakdown, you would find that, as always with these things, also partly because of population concentration, though the Ashanti region has more of a population. But the Greater Accra region was tops with 1,219, the Ashanti region next with 1,174, Eastern with 637, and then you would have the Tema area alone with 609. And that was quite an incident. Let's also look at the story on page 5 as we talk about the Ghana card. Do you have your Ghana card yet? And if you don't, what are the reasons accounting for that? You do know that if you're going to now roll on to the voters register, you would require your Ghana card. So if you don't have it, you have to ensure that you get it soon so you can exercise your franchise come 2024. But the National Identification Authority has commenced the expedited printing of the backlog of 541,529 records accumulated since July 2022. The printing of the blank cards is expected to last 11 days, ending on March the 29th, 2023. The printing of the backlog started from Saturday, March 18, 2023, and arose from the shortage of blank cards due to financial challenges. We know of those financial challenges, don't we? A statement issued by the authority said preparatory works for the expedited printing started on Wednesday, March 15, 2023, and included the configuration of printers, print servers, and laminators, as well as the deployment of additional staff from the NIA's regional and district offices to augment the staff capacity at the head office. And so that is that. Also on that page, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission starts audit from April 1 to sanitize public sector payroll. One of the only countries I know which always has ghosts on lists every single time, But why should we be surprised? Even the finance ministry, where you would expect there to be the most stringent of measures, had ghosts. Do you remember those three from sometime last year, having accrued many tens and tens of thousands, if not quite a tidy sum of money? Three people who didn't even work with the Ministry of Finance. And later, from that Auditor General's report, the situation had to be dealt with. We're a hilarious country. We are. Sometimes when I have to bite my tongue, sometimes, especially with what I know and places I've been. Sometimes you look at what we do here and how we tout the least things we do, the most common things, the most basic things, we tout them. And we've also become a very tolerant group of people. I'm not fostering intolerance, but sometimes they say it's like that analogy of that former Soviet ruler. Oh, how can I, this morning, some of my thoughts are betraying me. But he spoke about, there's a story told, yes, Joseph Stalin, how he got a chicken, plucked all its feathers, it was bruised, battered, bleeding, and he gave it some crumbs and then started throwing corn, and it clung to him. That's the way sometimes our leaders treat us. They give us the barest minimum, knowing that they don't give us much anyway, so we don't have much to complain about. When they give us the least, we'll thank them for it, when in fact, they should have even done a lot more. The Ghanaian publisher, as we get ready to wrap, FDA CEO recognized for COVID-19 fight. Pictured there, Delese Mimidako with President Akufo-Addo. What country do we want post-2024? That's a bit of a reflection there. Pictured there, former President Mahama in a handshake with current Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. Canadian blogger, girlfriend charged with murder. I'm sure you remember that story. Bono NPP targets first-time voters, and Ghana's primary 2 pupils reading improves. That's the note on which we're going to cap off the news review this morning. I'm so glad, especially looking at the numbers on social media watching us this morning. If I'd got any comments, I would have, read them out. But I see Raymond Boche saying Bobu. Yes, Bobu, an old student of Bishop Herman College, and very proud at that. It's part of my formation, which has brought me here today. But this segment has been brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering you free prostate screening, free female fertility screening as well. Locate us in Accra, Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronumabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. In Takrade Anaji Estate in Tema Community 22. Techiman Hansua Esiama in Zima. You can also reach us on 0244 867 068, 0244 867 068, or 0274 234 321, 0274 324, or 234, I beg your pardon, 321, 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Well, sporting activities still continue in Ghana and across the world, and we're still waiting for that first encounter as Chris Hughton takes over as head coach of the Black Stars. How is he going to fare? Only time will tell. But a lot more in sports coming your way up next. Do stay.